Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. What is your guess? I can't go into that store ever again story. Went to a pizza place to pick up an order. Was handed the food and said, "Thank you, sir." The response was, "My name's Tiffany." Had to send my wife in to get the food until Tiffany didn't work there anymore. Once I went to a restaurant in a resort. A probably 15-year-old girl wearing a freaking skirt kept getting called a sir. I was just flat and had short hair. Also, I guess my unplucked waxed threaded eyebrows made me look more masculine, but damn. I was wearing a skirt and a shirt with a heart on it. It was so awkward. I used to go to a bagel store near my work pretty often. Maybe once a week or so. Family owned shop. With the dad, uncle, mum etc all working there. As well as the owner's daughter during the summer. I was always pretty friendly to everyone. And talked to the whole family as we were both from NY but lived in the south now. Well, one time after getting a sandwich to go and getting back to the office, I saw the daughter, who was maybe only a few years younger than me, had written her number on the to-go container. Which was great, except I was happily engaged at the time. So later that week I went back, got lunch, and let her know I was flattered but I was in a relationship. And she was very polite and we just kind of moved on. The next week, I went back in again. The daughter wasn't working, but when I went to order, the whole family started grilling me on why I wouldn't date their daughter. Accusing me of making up my fiancée. Saying I'll let her on, and broke her heart again. We had never had any conversations more intimate than how's school. Oh wow, the weather is hot today. Yeah, I miss NY sometimes too, hahaha. Then they asked how I was going to make it up to her. At which point I kind of slowly started leaving and told them I wasn't sure, but I will think of something, and have never returned since. I got a gym membership for the first time recently. A lot of the machines are pretty self-explanatory. But I've never used a lot of them, so I have no idea what I'm doing. So a few weeks ago I'm trying out the endless stare machine, and in front of me is a guy on a machine working his arms. Like making circular pedaling motions. I thought, huh, I could do my arms too. So I take the machine next to his. Set the timer for 10 minutes. Just circling away. I finish my 10 minutes and look down by the seat to see handles. It was a leg machine. I sat there for 10 minutes in front of the entire gym. God, and everybody circling my arms like a lunatic. I mean, I'm still going back because I paid for it. But I'm not going to look anyone in the eye there ever again. There's a guy at my gym who does like jumping karate kicks all the way across the whole floor. Then all the way back over and over. I'm waiting for him to decapitate someone walking crossways by accident. I would not even blink at you pedaling with your arms or whatever the heck you did. There's always some dude doing something weirder and more intentional. People do weird shit all the time at my gym. But at least they're trying. Not a store, but a public library. We're at the counter. And the librarian is scanning the books we've selected. She was generously sized. My little brother, 4 or 5 at the time, tugs my mom down to whisper something in her ear. He was rather new to the concept of whispering. He put his hand up to shield his lips from the librarian. Despite all this, he says about the librarian at standard speaking volume, "Hey mom, why ever notice how fat that lady is?" Mom tried to play it off by saying something akin to, "He thinks it's okay to say it to others cause he says it to me. But my mom's not fat." It did not work. We used to go there every day when my mom didn't want to have to hire a babysitter to watch us during the summer. She'd bring us to her office and let us walk across the street to the public library to play games on their Windows Vista PCs. Or just read books. She'd always come to pick us up when she was done with work. Haha, I did something similar when I was 5 or 6. Still embarrassed about it. My dad and I were walking into Walmart. And a very fat lady rolled past us on one of those motorized carts. I yelled to my dad, "Look dad. A fat person. She's fat." I'm sure my dad was dying of embarrassment, haha. I saw a nun at Kmart while my mom was pushing me in a cart through the entrance and shouted, probably unintentionally, "Mom, look at that witch." She wheeled the cart back around and left the store. I heard this story a lot when I was young. Back when I was getting married I was sick as a dog and my soon-to-be bride insisted we go shopping for the wedding invites. Went into this pretty higher-end shop and really felt ill, and not just at the prices. Asked one of the workers if they had a restroom I could use. Long story short, took a massive smelly diarrhea dump. Clogged the toilet and they had no plunger to fix it with. Even though I only flushed once, the toilet kept running and it started to overflow. Rushed out. Closed the door. Grabbed my bride by the arm and just said, "We gotta go." I read so many stories of people taking massive diarrhea dumps in public toilets. Each time I can't help but think about the poor souls who do the cleaning later on. How do they fix it? I work in a bar. First you hope it is the opposite gender that you are. Then you use the "I can't go in the girls' boys' bathroom." This sometimes works. Usually the lowest ranking person just has to spend 30 minutes or so with someone else's poop. I was with a group of friends in a very quiet store. We were slowly leaving one by one through the double glass doors. One of it was closed and the other stayed opened. I somehow thought the closed door was opened and vice versa. So I walked smack into the middle of the closed glass door. My face was imprinted on it. I guess my face was very oily. My friends and the shopkeeper came rushing to see if I was okay. Then all marveled at my squashed face imprint. I left quickly. Every time I walk past that shop I make sure I am looking down or at the other side in case the staff recognize my face. Hey Joe. THATD, the guy I was telling you about, the one who ran into the glass and left a face print. Yeah. Really? Awesome. Where is that idiot? You missed him. He speed walked away like someone was chasing him. While at the till at the convenience store paying for my lunch, the girl behind the counter asked if I wanted to go for a drink. Being married, I made my apologies hastily, pointing to the ring on my fingers. To which she replied that my lunch was a meal deal and would be cheaper with the drink. She never used the phrase "go for" again. Part of me feels like that was her cover out. My girlfriend fist bumped the clerk when he was actually reaching to grab a paper we had just signed. Anyway, we don't go to that tar kingdom anymore. I fist bumped a cashier at a grocery store a couple days ago. He was just handing me my change. Never buying groceries again. It brings up dark memories. That just means keep the change. You're their new favorite customer. And they miss you. Went on a first date with this girl to a new restaurant in town. She proceeded to get sloppy drunk and made a huge scene. From the classic could not control the volume of her voice to insisting on trying to show me and some other gentleman nearby what kind of underwear she had on, while loudly insisting that she's a good girl though. The server we had seemed to get that I was not a willing part of this, but I was so mortified there's no way I'd ever go back. Note to self. Never go on a date in a restaurant you really like. Edit. First date. True story, one of the best first dates I ever had was going to this corny chain sandwich restaurant that my social group always made fun of. I almost didn't go when my date suggested it. But then he explained his rationale. We can embarrass ourselves as much as we like because no one either of us knows ever goes here. Do barber shops count? Decided to get a haircut whilst having a cold. Sneeze and farted at the same time. Never went back. Oh god. I finally have a reason to share this story. One of the first jobs I had. I approached my boss in his office to discuss a report. As I was standing near him, he was sitting in his chair reading the file on his desk. I felt a sneeze come on. Knowing that I didn't have time to grab a tissue, I just turned away from him. However, the sneeze held off but the gas in my stomach did not. I crop dusted the poor man. Embarrassed, I whipped my body back around to face him and the centripetal force of my motion must have knocked my sinuses loose. I sneezed upon completing the spin but was in too much shock to cover my face. I gave my boss both an aura of noxious soda and mucus spewed across his face. I was standing next to a colleague at work once while she spoke with a friend and had a sudden urge to cough while I was drinking water. I didn't have time to turn around or swallow the water, so I just spat it all in her face. I was ducking mortified. I pissed all over the floor of a toy store when I was a toddler. My poor dad was mortified, but the staff were very nice about it. The store's closed now. Which really sucks. I don't think I actually remember the name of the place. Edit. Thanks for all the suggestions as to what the store's name might have been. It was actually an independent toy store. Not a big chain like Toys R Us, which is still open in Canada. I did some searching on the Wayback Machine last night and found out that the store's name was It's All Fun and Games in Vancouver. If you worked there, sorry for pissing all over your floor. I wouldn't be too worried, man. I used to work in a toy store and you would be surprised by the amount of kids who vomit and pee out of excitement from going to a toy store. Are you sure you don't work in a pet store? When I was a kid, my family went to a pizzeria, and before the food came I went to inspect the plumbing. They had those sinks where you press down on the knob and the water would flow, with the knob slowly raising back up before it would turn off after 20 seconds. I used my fists and hit the top of the knob and the thing just popped off and a huge geyser of water was erupting non-stop. Me and another kid were in there. We looked at each other and just bolted from the bathroom. I got back to my seat and just sat there silent. Then my mom went to use the bathroom. And when she came back she told us this story of how there was a pool in the bathroom hallway and the manager and an employee were in the men's room slipping and sliding trying to shut off the water. My whole family was laughing at the story. But I just sat there silent. They asked me what's wrong and I told them it was me that did it. They never fail to mention it every time we drive past a pizzeria, Even now 20 years later. I've never stepped foot in one since then. Edit. Dramatic silence. Can't you see, mother? IT was ME. I did IT. IT was my fault. How do you expect ME to live with that? Considering it must have been on the way out anyway, you did them a favor. Imagine if it burst at night after close. This is actually a pretty funny memory. But I understand why you felt bad and never returned. Did you all finish your meal? I was in a souvenir shop in London, England. With all these knickknacks and whatnot. I bumped a shelf that had a bunch of models of Big Ben. And like 6 or 7 of them fell off the shelf and broke. I offered to pay for them. But the employees blew it off. I guess minimum wage workers don't care enough about their actual company policy. Thankfully, I was grateful. And now I will never return to that particular store. I'm fairly sure all those shops are a front for something anyway. There's one in Manchester that sells all the same London-centric merch they do 200 odd miles away down there. I sat on a Target shelf and the entire row of shelves crashed down onto the ground. Those shelves are not very strong at the wrong angle. They're made of Medina metal, a uniquely pliable substance that fails when things like objects or air or photons or eyesight are laid upon it. I'm at a coffee shop. Have a glass of coffee in front of me. Filled to the top. That shit is almost overflowing. I raise my hand to get the waitress attention because I want to order something else. I accidentally whack the shit out of the glass. This sends it flying across the room where it hits the waitress on the thigh and gets coffee ducking everywhere. Felt bad. So I left and never went back. Nice shot. Heard this in the Wii Sports announcer's voice. I used to go to the same haircut place since I was in kindergarten until I was in my teens. One day I go for a haircut and get this new, fairly attractive woman. As she's starting I start to sweat. Now sometimes when I was younger my head would get really hot and my head would sweat when I was in put on the spot sometimes. Anxiety I guess. No idea. But it's mostly gone away thankfully. Usually a few drops of sweat will roll down my face when this happens. But not today, it was like someone was standing over me slowly pouring a bottle of water slowly over my head. It just kept going and going. Eventually the girl mentions, "Wow, you must be really hot." I'm already very nervous. And blurt out the first thing that pops into my head. "Yeah, it must be because you're pretty." I'm not sure why this is happening. You're pretty, but it's not like you're that pretty. So pretty much as soon as the last words are leaving my mouth I start asking myself, why in God's name would you say that? Now I'm even more embarrassed and I have to sit through a haircut feeling like an idiot. A drippy wet idiot. Actual surveillance footage of me as the haircut was finishing. I spent the rest of the haircut praying for it to be done quickly or for a meteor to come through the ceiling and put me out of my misery. The girl handled the rest of the haircut like a goddamn pro. No idea why she didn't just kick me out. She finished. I paid. Gave her a huge tip. And now I drive farther to get my haircut done somewhere else. Yeah, it must be because you're pretty. Okay. Not all that smooth. But she might be flattered and give you a smile. Not too bad. I'm not sure why this is happening. Alright. Starting to ramble here. But she might write it up to you being nervous or something. Still okay. You're pretty but it's not like you're that pretty. Good god man. What the hell? I swear to god. This was my exact thought process for the rest of the haircut. I had a long, painful, uncomfortably damp rest of the haircut to consider everything that went wrong. This is a fond memory. Moved downtown to our university area. Got myself a sweet deal on a cheap ghetto as duck studio. The kind that get rented out to poor students next to the area homeless shelter. 2006. Rent is only $300 a month. And I'm not in school. Too busy being punk rock and making just enough for a roof and partying. Paradise. 1 week in. I go to a show. Get completely shithoused. And stumble back up the hill to either get more ducked up. Or pass out at home. I decide to stop at the 7-11 directly across from my building. Yeah no. Snacks. I grab everything my impulses and lack of inhibition tells me to and I'm about to pay for this garbage and be on my way. Set my things on the counter and politely introduce myself to the cashier. As she is ringing up my last couple things. Without any kind of warning or rumbling beforehand. I am in excruciating pain. Right in my gut. A split second flashes by. I clutch and clench my legs together. I gasped bathroom? To her. It was too late 5 seconds ago. I try to take a step and bam. My bowels unleash with not only an ungodly sound from my ass, but a simultaneous yelp as if I were a chihuahua that had just been stomped on. I swear I have never been so suddenly sober without a cop being involved. I have shorts on. I look down. And just liquid shit down the back of my leg. Into my boots. And starting to puddle on the floor. I just ran. No change. No snacks. No words. I lived at that spot for almost 2 years. Never went back. And never even walked across their lot to get anywhere. I would walk the same way around that place to avoid it every day. She probably tells that story to this day. So this dude just shits himself right in front of me and runs away without saying a word. I was a cashier at a gas station and can confirm it's probably told to every new employee that shows up. So anything weird ever happen here? Ever get robbed or anything like that? Not really. It's happened but not to me. One dude did shit his pants and run away after paying for a bunch of chips and candy one day. You know how in department stores when they have one of those display bathrooms they have that piece of plexiglass that goes across the toilet that says something along the lines of not a real toilet. Don't be an idiot and pee in this? Those barriers didn't exist in the 80s when I was a young kid. Mum looked up and saw me with my panties off. Holding my dress above my waist and sprinting for the toilet. She did not catch me in time. Edit. Thanks so much for my first silver. I'll tell my mom and maybe it will help to ease a bit of the embarrassment and shame this event caused her. This is the one answer that had me dying. I did the exact same thing in the early 2000s. Can't look at a Lowe's the same. I tripped up over my shoelace and crashed into a shelf and broke it. The manager chased me out of the store. Edit. Cheers for silver my dears. I guess you must have been young. If you were an older lady, they might have been worried about you being injured or something. I was 14 so yeah. A friend was getting married and asked me to make her wedding dress. We went to a fabric store to check out our options and get swatches. She asked to use the shop's bathroom. A few minutes later, she walked out quickly and whispered to me we need to get the duck out here now. Turns out she had explosive diarrhea and absolutely destroyed the bathroom. Neither of us have been back. Lol, sorry for your friend. But that's pretty funny. I hope she was able to clean it up a bit. Did this story inspire your username? She tried to clean it up but made it worse. Cheap paper towel just moves the mess around. The story did not inspire my username. Unfortunately, most events of my life have involved butts and whatnot. For people asking about the username, I worked as a tailor for years and have been privy to a lot of terrible things, including seeing horrible nude butts and numerous customers leaving poop-streaked trousers to be altered. In fact, getting farted on in front of customers caused me to quit tailoring and got back to college. For better or worse, butts and whatnot have made me the person I am today. I went to buy groceries almost daily, always in the same store. Most of the time only one checkout lane was open and there was always this really friendly older lady there. She would always make small talk with me and compare me to her son. After a few years of this I moved a bit farther away, but never told her. So I just didn't show up anymore. Now I won't ever go back there because I feel ashamed I didn't tell her and just abandoned her. I'm sure she would be happy to see you again. Or she's dead and died never knowing what became of her beloved grocery boyfriend. Not a store but a Mexican restaurant. I went to use the bathroom. It was one of those single occupancy rooms with a locking door. Well, the door wasn't locked, and due to what I can only describe as the worst timing ever, I saw none other than my waiter's dong. I was kinda shocked, so I looked up and we made eye contact for a second. I just went back to my table and didn't say anything for the rest of the meal. Even as my friends were asking what happened. I eventually told them, and it's now one of my classic stories. But yeah, I can't ever go back. Edit. Wow, this is like my third comment ever and I got my first silver. Thank you so much, anonymous Reddit dude. It's really more awkward for the waiter. He's the one who'd be hiding in shame if he saw you. When I was much younger, about 9-10, I went to a large PC store with my dad, who wanted to ask a technician about an upgrade. Before we left the house, my dad asked if I needed the toilet first, which I said no to. Predictably, on the way I started feeling like I needed to pee, but knowing that I had only 5 minutes earlier told my dad I didn't need to go. I said nothing. We got stuck in traffic for about 30 minutes and the need was becoming urgent. But I thought to myself, I'm a big boy now. I can handle this. I'll just go behind the store when we get there. Nope. So when we pull up, I pretend to my dad that I'm going to look at the games at the front of the store and he could find me there when he was done. So he walked off to the back of the store where the technician's desk was. I took my chance and snuck out to execute my master plan. Little did I know that the rear car park of the retail center was being used for some sort of event. I don't recall what it was, but I just remember a lot of people standing around talking and singing. So I abandoned my attempt and returned to the store. I was at the point of bouncing on the spot to keep it in. One lapse in concentration and it was game over. It started as a couple of hot drips that just soaked the front of my underwear. But the seal was now broken. And no matter what I did, there was nothing that could stop that tsunami of warm amber that was now streaming down both of my legs. I could do nothing but stand there. And started crying hysterically. Safe to say that when my dad heard this and came running, he decided that he would not be making a purchase that day. And to this day I have never set foot in that store again. TLDR. Pissed myself in the middle of a store in front of the security guard. Dad did not buy a new PC. Edit. My first golden comment is about the time I gave my shoes a golden shower. Damn it. Cheers, nomad of the internet. Was there no bathroom in the store? Unfortunately not. The store was PC World in the UK. Not the type of place for customer bathrooms. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.